Dear children, each and every second of our lives is very important and special. It is priceless because time is a blessing given to us by Allah in our lives. Each and every moment that passes can never be returned, and I'll give you an example. For instance, if you are 5 years old and the month of October has passed in your 5th year, I want you to observe. Will October of your 5th year ever return? No, that's not possible, because the year that has passed can never be revived. This is the reason why parents educate us about the good and bad things in life. When they teach us, we learn to recognize good and bad things. As we gradually learn about the good things, we can sooner implement them in our lives and make them favorable. Dear children, we come across a lot of goodness and evil in our life. If we are not aware whether we are in need of good or bad, it is likely that we will quickly be drawn towards the evil. When we realize that bad things lead nowhere, it is far too late. Instead, we receive more and more problems because of the evil, and then much of our time is wasted. That is why Allah Almighty has guided mankind towards the life and teachings of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Our Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's life period does not reflect any evil or wrongdoing. His life is thereby the epitome of goodness for all human beings. So children, let's explore the life of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We will try to learn how he spent his life and his efforts to embrace goodness in a steadfast manner. Dear children, when we study about the life of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we get to know that he was sent among those people who couldn't differentiate between good and evil. They were not aware of whether an evil person was suitable to rule a society or a good individual was, whose influence could likely bring success and prosperity. The era before prophethood was filled with evil deeds. Wrongdoings were quite common. As evil actions were the norm, so wrongdoings were not exactly considered bad by the people. In fact, many people during that time used to commit evil deeds, assuming that there was some good in them or that they were good actions. However, bad actions always led to misfortune. So when troubles did befall them as a consequence of their actions, ultimately they faced great losses. They couldn't understand what to do to avoid less hardships as much as possible. Even though the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam lived among such people his whole life, he never adopted any evil deeds or habits. Allah Almighty had sent Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to guide and differentiate between good and evil through his actions. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam had never committed or supported any evil action throughout his entire life. If anyone misbehaved with him, in return he treated them with kindness. He would do his best to try and help anyone in need. He would become the support for the old and helpless. Such was the greatness of our Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that he would even behave with kindness and compassion towards his enemies. Honesty, piety, integrity, justness, being affectionate towards children, compassionate with the elderly, kindness towards relatives, forgiveness and tolerance, generosity and goodwill for Allah's creation, virtuousness and sincerity are the qualities that reflected beautifully in his eminent personality. These qualities also increased his significance in society. People would desire to meet him. They experienced happiness after talking to him, and many wished to work alongside Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Numerous people would seek Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam for their problems, and he would make his best efforts to help resolve their matters. Our Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would always be eager to help others. He would treat everyone with politeness and fairness. Dear children, Another example of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ's just behavior is the restoration of the Kaaba before his prophethood. When Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was 35 years old, there was a flood in Mecca that almost destroyed the building of the Kaaba. The walls of the house of Allah were destroyed. After witnessing the damage, the Quraysh were forced to consider rebuilding the sacred Kaaba. While they were planning the construction, they came to the decision to only use halal, pure income to rebuild the Kaaba, even though the people were in deep ignorance. Due to Allah's divine guidance, they made the right decision. Money acquired from prostitution, usury, and wealth which was wrongfully taken would not be spent on the construction of Kaaba. When they collected the halal sum of money, it wasn't enough. They ordered construction material from modern-day Egypt to rebuild the sacred house of Allah, but they were still short on money to construct the mosque as they had planned. So these materials, they built a small wall in front of the Kaaba, known as Hatim or Hijr. When the walls of the Kaaba reached higher than the black stone, someone had to be chosen to place the Hajar al-Aswad in its place. Every chief of the tribe in Mecca desired the honor of placing the rock. Hence, there was a lot of unrest. The dispute lasted for almost 5 days, and it got so intense that there was a fear of bloodshed in the Kaaba. A wise elderly man called Abu Umayyah suggested that the first person to enter the door of Masjid al-Haram the next day would decide who would keep the black stone in its place. Everyone seemed to agree with the conclusion. As ordained by Allah Almighty, Holy Prophet ﷺ was the first person to enter Masjid al-Haram the next day. When the people saw the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, they exclaimed, "The trustworthy one, Amin, has arrived. Muhammad ﷺ, we will abide by his decision." The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was informed about the whole matter, and so he resolved it. He asked for a piece of cloth. He lifted the Hajar al-Aswad with his holy hands and placed it on the cloth. He instructed the chiefs, "All of you will hold each of the corner of the cloth and lift it together. Then take the stone to its rightful place." The chiefs obeyed him, and when the rock reached the spot, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ lifted the stone with his holy hands and placed it in its original position. This was quite diplomatic and a wise decision of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and alas, it satisfied everyone. Dear children, when Prophet Muhammad ﷺ announced prophethood, even then people were aware of his kindness and good habits. They would exclaim joy over Prophet Muhammad ﷺ's virtuous actions. So I think it's very clear to you now that goodness is invaluable and that the bad will remain futile in every society.